So then next is the afflictive emotion of ignorance, and here it says, by being distracted, careless, and unmindful, you beings will become dull, foggy, and forgetful. By being unconscious and lazy, you will increase your ignorance. And the fruition of this ignorance will be to wander helplessly in the animal realm. So there are generally 7 different concepts of ignorance. And so some of them are a lack of mental clarity, a mental thinking, and then fogginess, which is like sleepiness, then forgetfulness, then laziness. Laziness is any mind that doesn't want or cannot accomplish something. One is attached to some temporary bliss or happiness. One wants to relax, one wants to sleep. And when something is to be accomplished, one thinks, I can't really do it today, I will do it tomorrow or some other time. So one puts things off with is a heedless mind. So that is some laziness. Then there is some fainting mind. That is when we fall asleep, we sort of faint, and we fall under the power of strong ignorance. So all these are concepts of ignorance, and as a result of this ignorance, one will be reborn as an animal. In brief, this ignorance comes down to a lack of the wisdom that knows what actions to adopt and what actions need to be abandoned. That the wisdom inherent within one's mind lacks any independence. It is very weak. Even if one thinks, I need to do that, then there will be no wish to do that. One will be lax, and one will not really engage in the action. So the wisdom, the mindfulness is very weak, and one will not accomplish anything.
Tera 사제가요 보람저 또목 성문문 빨 드림바사를 낭샤르베 도메이시 도발고 널 또목 너과 또 집저서 도차 도바 순주 세상 도바 집저다 때라서 도는 또 집지 그래 근데 도차고 도바 순주 소송 세상 도바 집지 집자 다차 이제 또 집지 그러라 또 먹도 받네 대장하더니 가르쳐도 다차 타봐요 뭐도 왜 하람도 전에도 론도물 또 들이 마보요래 치와도 차와니 치바리 치와도 세당리 중화들이 이도 뭐고 치와 세당이나 중화지 도파 레도 이나니 치와는 또 차와르더니 리와 레도 이들 차단이 도파 제도거더니 망보요래 연락을 제대로 가리거리 또 먹으면 바탕에 뒤바사를 낭차를 습사고치고 그러고 빨리 좋게 야라나 니 빛이 보도 상나 니티 먹래지 나 물리는 뭐 치리 당아 니 초대서 볼 필요 저도 나서 가리래 니 거리 당아 니리지 좀 가서 이렇게 니 처음 먹었을 때 랍당 니 로고 때문에 니 코왕 그거 또 파니 저도 좋은 말이 이러고 봐. 이제 이거 그래. 그래서 집사를 당서 집사고 상계를 봐. 되나? 집사고 이거 거는 나도다니 몸 강철아. 좀더 저렇게. 대단도 왕도 마셔봐. 집이 시합 때 매다가 저다 시합고 빼는 잠이야 사라지. 사토도 이제 잡고 매. 대통령이 시라고 빼리. 너지 밤에 나가 저. 대통령이 시라고 빼리. 가서 째로 그래. 빼는 제당도 좌라서 뭐 샘들이 담는 탑에 담는 시라고 치어야고 말했어. 랍답답들이 생랑 왕통 그요래. 시라고 라트 잡이야. 저. 따왕으로 따 매저 그래. 샘서 오고 가면 이모도 봤지. 치아고 고삼들 랍당고 리타처를 좋아해요. 이런 데서 뒤바서는 낭쳐와서 너는 집이 싫었대 고소. 아마나 비저ኛ는 있잖아. 리지 루포타모 될게 셈싸워요. 같이 타모. 야다 리 안잡기들이 로후지 보여. 목살 탑살했어요. 도움이 이시 도발 쇼호 개바사 오요가 나도 좀 식도 그래야지.
Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may you beings who have fallen into the dark pit of ignorance shine the light of mindfulness and thereby achieve wisdom free from thought. So there are in total 80 different concepts of afflictive emotions, and 7 of them are pertaining to ignorance. Then probably 33 to attachment and 40 to anger. And each one of those afflictive emotions, those thoughts, have a subtle aspect and a more gross aspect. For example, in terms of anger or aversion, when the more coarse aspect of anger is an actual manifest anger, and the more subtle aspect is a subtle being unpleased or like a suspicion. Then in terms of attachment, the more coarse thought of attachment is an actual craving attachment, and then the more subtle aspect of attachment is like having hopes and things like that. So in terms of ignorance, when we fall under the influence of ignorance, the antidote is to regain awareness, mindfulness. For example, in the morning, when you just wake up and then you think, oh, I need to sleep a little bit longer, it's so nice to sleep. And when that thought arises, immediately you think, oh, this is a thought of ignorance. I have a precious human incarnation. I must get up and I must practice. Then you sleep as much as is necessary to keep your physical health, maybe 5 hours of sleep a night. And then once you have slept those hours, then you get up and you think, I don't need that. I don't need any more sleep. You don't fall under the influence of ignorance. Some others who are under the influence of ignorance, they may sleep even until 12 o'clock at noon. So day and night they are just sleeping. That clear awareness that recognizes mindfulness, that is the Buddha. And if mindfulness is awake, then whatever concepts and afflictive emotions arise, one will be able to recognize any faults and qualities, and one will not fall under the sway of those afflictive emotions. So this mindfulness is likened to blazing fire, or in Manjushri, the sword is called the wisdom sword. It refers to the mindfulness. And the wrathful deities are surrounded by fire masses. This refers to this wisdom aspect. Or Vajrayogini holds a curved butcher's knife, which is also a sign of this wisdom or mindfulness that cuts through the afflictive emotions. So when anger or attachment arise, immediately one will recognize this to be a negative emotion, and one will cut through the rope that binds one. And in this way, one gains mental independence. So this is the sword that cuts through the afflictive emotions. It is mindfulness. If one maintains this mindfulness, then upon arising, the afflictive emotions will dissipate back into the mind, just like water dissolving, salt dissolving in the water. So one must regain mindfulness, and in order to maintain mindfulness, when one sits straight with a straight spine. One does not lean back. If one leans back and makes oneself comfortable, then one gets very sleepy and one gets very heavy, and then one thinks one needs a support for the hands, and then the feet are not comfortable. And then one gets angry and one is kind of irritated. Then immediately one should think, no, I don't need that afflictive emotion. I don't need some ignorance. One regains one's awareness, and one like kind of gets this gaze. In Dzogchen terms, it is that it is almost like a crazy gaze. One's eyes look like really focused. So in this way, one regains one's mindful awareness, and there are many qualities in that mindful awareness, as they are actually the Buddha. So it says, may you achieve the wisdom free from thought. Whatever concepts arise, they will be destroyed if mindfulness is very clear. So this wisdom free from thought, that is not engaging in whatever arises within the mind. So if you look at the mind itself very clearly, and you engage in the thoughts that arise, then that will obscure the nature of the mind. It will obscure your mind. So not to engage in the thoughts that arise, that is the wisdom free from thought. For a beginning practitioner, that means that one does not entertain any thoughts of the past and not anticipate the future. And sometimes in that gap in between, the mind will become very clear and there will be no concepts arising. And for a very short period of time, one will see the clear and empty nature of the mind as it is actually. So that is the wisdom free from thought. Wisdom, in Tibetan, it means yeshin, and it means the primordial awareness. It has been there from the very beginning, and it is the knowing capacity that knows of everything. So it is the knower from the very beginning that always is inherent within our mind. So if we abide within that state and we do not fixate to whatever arises, one will not grasp at any phenomena of samsara and nirvana. And in this way, one will achieve the omniscient wisdom of the Buddhas. If there is no fixation, then the mind will pervade everything like the sky. And the Buddhas and sentient beings all are pervaded by this nature of the mind. All phenomena of samsara and nirvana are pervaded by this nature. And also this nature is contained within one's own mind. So if that is realized and recognized, then one has achieved the all-knowing wisdom. As this mind pervades all phenomena, one has knowledge of all phenomena. So that is the omniscient wisdom or primordial awareness that has been there from the very beginning. So the Buddha has said only temporarily sentient beings are obscured by stains. Those stains are the fixations. When we fixate to the thoughts arising in the mind, then these will obscure our minds. Just like temporarily, when you take a mirror and you blow on it, and then it makes foggy on the mirror. Just like that, temporarily, it is obscured. As Milarepa has said, this is the ordinary consciousness. If you directly look at the ordinary consciousness, you will see that within its nature there is a wisdom of non-duality. There is no duality within this nature, and everything within samsara and nirvana is contained. There is no distinction between self and others. So that understanding, that realization, this awareness is called the self-knowing, self-luminous awareness, and that is what is referred to here with the wisdom free from thought. And so there are 4 verses like the songs of Milarepa. Says, however, appearances might appear outside, not realized are delusory projections. Clinging to objects, that is what ties you down. For those who know, they are illusory appearance. For them, what appear to be objects are mind's resource. In the end, in fact, there is no such thing as appearance, and being unborn Dharmakaya is utterly pure. He taught of its sacredness in the unborn Dharmakaya. The workings of rational consciousness inside, not realized, are ignorance itself. This is the root of all karma and all affliction. If realized, is self-awareness wisdom. Here is where positive qualities spring full-blown. In the end, in fact, there is no such thing as wisdom. Let phenomena go as far as they go and no more. This is as far as they go and no more, he said. This skandha of form compulsively taken on, not realized, is 4 elements making a body. Sickness and suffering, this is what comes from that. If realized, it's a deity union body. To replace the common assumption you entertain, in the end, in fact, there is no such thing as body. It's as rarefied as a cloud-free sky, he taught. It's pure as a cloud-free sky is what he taught. Apparition of male and female demons and ghouls. For as long as your guise has not been seen through a Mara, obstacle makers who nothing but trouble spell, if the guise is seen through obstructors are Dharmapalas, a hotbed of cities of such a variety. In the end, in fact, there are neither gods nor goblins. Let concepts go as far as they go and no more. This is as far as they go and no more, he said.
디자다 도비 이시 토파쇼 다다통다 사제 습기 탐지를 사제인바 생기만통 사 남시만통 이신통 생기만통 사제통 들배과 침보요래 또라 대다들랑도 하고요래 되나 똑바로 서로 죽기나 생기 탐지 공노바 롱다를 배 장통이 탐지고 문의들을 강자다 이가 저리 맞을 바대 시기 요래 때를 냠이 얘네 냠서 말한다 그리고 권토고요 말이 다보 고지 좀 고요리 참에 용되는 냠설이 몇 번에 냠설이 몇 번으로 가려야 될 거예요. 랑그 생 준시대는 나또 이제 딱 보여 또네 랑마죠. 진식이 나도 참아 하고는 때 매번 동점들이 이거 고요 말이 양절들을 대치 버려 롱밍하고 고요 말이 디살러다 가지가 상치 독진에 대해서 제발 송거요래 송매야 동문에 대 양절 리당 때에서 제발을 랑 제출함이 설레야 요래 방금 마토서 게 다다 독진 똑같이 무슨 다다 금실로 지람 전에 랍자가 탈선 봤어요. 이게 진압자에 있어. 또 진압자가 송요리. 다다고 또 랍장. 탑제는 파시 쪽은 시랍 레위스. 시랍 레요. 실질 레요데. 하자 다치고 땡사 봐야지. 되나? 내록 도구는 좀 내록 도나. 주바 공는 매지. 생분대로 또 손들이 주박 다시 말해야지. 말하는데 그분들은 가려고 있잖아. 내lok도 바로는 시락사와를 오는 매들. 생분 내lok도 토소는 수록을 동공을 시락도 바로도 선바대를 해야지. 세마를 탈토봐요. 세마를 봤을 때는 야 세마 탈토봐도 랑도 세마도 집에 동을 해야지. 세마들은 답지 세마 걸쳐들은 즉각 세마를 하기고 말이야. 야, 이거 세마에도 야한테 다소 똥발이 주는 사마 똥발 잡고 다 세마 직접 매 다 통하더라. 세마를 통해라. 세마도 싫어 세마에 이제 말할때. 거는 멋지게 쏘마는 거. 찌롱 잡게 내려도 집하고는 매시 말할때. 네 내려도 바로는 시락사와로 오는 매서. 그냥 걱정이야 말이야. 말하리 받는지 미국 받았지. 속장 맞이를 살서 맞지. 말하리 받는지 미국 받았지. 라도 시락도 때렸다고 송해. 되나 나서 그 속장 가면 매나야. 세부 따왔지 했더니 라도 하고니라 진시대 한마씩 봐 오시네. 제 라도니 또다. 되니 매다 좋은지 또 적보가 띵감성 정도는. 너무 중중 나도 중tuk 때려 공시들이 나도다 유모 치몰라 그리고 되나 나도다 유모가 bomba 또나 되는 대성으로라 오케이
So this was one of the songs of the 100,000 songs of Milarepa, and it directly relates to the inner meaning of the Kuntuzangpo here. It makes it a little bit clearer. And so Milarepa has said, I do not see samsaric consciousness, I see primordial wisdom. I do not see sentient beings, I see Buddhas. So this is has a very profound meaning that needs to be understood. When one realizes the meaning of this, one will immediately understand what is meant. So the entire outer universe, if investigated through reasoning and through logical reasoning and so forth, and not engaged into practice, will not, one will not subdue the afflictive emotions arising. So when we have not engaged in practice, we have not habituated. So we may have gained an understanding, and many of us do understand the meaning, but then it needs to be experienced through habituation. And really all that, what that experience or that habituation is to maintain mindful awareness, to cut through the thoughts and afflictive emotions that arise. Mindful awareness that is aware of the afflictive emotions and thoughts that arise within the mind, and in this way are eliminated. And apart from that, there is nothing else needed. This is the only practice. There is no need to receive many transmission and instructions. There is not much needed. Of course, in a different lineage, as Mahamudra or Dzogchen, they explain different approaches. They have all their own special features that they explain. For example, in the Dzogchen lineage, the omniscient Longchen Rabcham has perfected his religious studies, but he has said that within of the six perfections, within the chapter of wisdom, it is very vast and very deep. If one simply realizes that there is nothing more needed, there is no other learning and hearing that needs to be done apart from realizing the nature of the mind. And something similar also was said by Jetsun Milarepa. He has said, apart from realizing mind's nature, there is no separate perfection of wisdom. So whoever realizes, recognizes the nature of one's own mind has perfected the paramita of wisdom. When we look for valid characteristics, the only valid characteristic is found within the nature of one's own mind. The entire universe and sentient beings, if investigated and looked for, characteristics looked for, all these will transform into emptiness. There is no valid characteristic that can be found anywhere in this universe, apart from recognizing the nature of one's own mind. So therefore, Longchen Rabjam has said, apart from realizing mind's nature, there is no higher training needed. And therefore also Milarepa has said, apart from realizing mind's nature, there is no separate perfection of wisdom. Milarepa and also Jigme Lingpa were known for not having engaged in great listening or studying of the teachings, and still they have perfected and reached the furthest limits of the path. So even if we have not perfected the practice of studying the teachings, it is that cuts through the root of the mind, recognize the most ordinary consciousness, most ordinary awareness. That is likened to fire. When the fire meets with a piece of paper, it will be burned up immediately. So in the beginning, one trains with recognizing the smaller, more subtle concepts arising, and through that one habituates. One does that again and again. One habituates until finally one will be able to subdue even strong afflictive emotions arising.
감수 생지 탐지 군제 산지 마다 냠지 담라리베 가르 생지 망통 산지 통시 라리베 생지 타마 산지 랍도아 군투장보 군제 산지 마다 냠지 냠나야들이 다다 가르 혼자 재미 출거 이자라서 다다 도미 내라 줘 철때도 다 은혜처럼 철다 많더라 라마를 줘 생지 고로 딱딱 철때 저리 상계를 조르라게 내려라게 또 세고 내려가게 되네. 나도 가도 나와. 근데 야미지 되게 짜들 가는 거. 사 벌고 가야 야고 저보들 야 사 벌고 내가 제고 가야 야고 생설 때는 나를 뒤시어서는 좀 사대 내가 가르치를 뒤시서는 나도 당연히 뭐 간지도 하고서 이러다 미루죠. 시선들이 대마도 이런 말. 그게 사제마다 이제 뒤미트고 이제라서 진밤에 뵙고 그랬지. 배는 진밤에나 다다다다다 좀 내려 주는 가봐는 차롬지가 로였다. 배 납치 잡모다 차롬지가 로였나? 야, 개빠지게 차롬레스. 근데 저에 뵙고 그랬지. 저다고 가리리 사족선데 산문기메와 나한테 이렇게 보르디네 나한테 납치 잡아서 빼 누구에도가 땅무도 두고 땅무도가 야 나나도 빼 내가 제와로 좋다 그래 사족선데 그빼 사족선데 빼 좋으래 나한테 시작하는 저로도 시작하는 좋고 그래 너나
All you beings of the three realms are actually identical to the Buddhas, the ground of all, but your misunderstanding of the ground causes you to go astray, so you act without aim. So just like Milarepa has said, I do not see sentient beings, I see Buddhas. In their true nature, all sentient beings are Buddhas. And so that is what is also refers to here when Samantabhadra is saying, all you beings of the three realms are actually identical to the Buddhas, the ground of all. Only temporarily sentient beings are under the influence of mindlessness. They lack mindful awareness and thus they go astray. Thus they are confused. If one cuts through this mindlessness and maintains a mindfulness, one realizes mind's nature and abides within that state, whatever concepts arise will be recognized, and that is mental independence. That is all that needs to be done in terms of practice. There is no need to fly away. There is no need to engage in many difficulties, many hardships, much work. You only need to look at your mind. That is all that needs to be done, and to recognize the afflictive emotions and thoughts arising. And if you recognize them, they will diminish back into the mind. There is nothing else apart from that that is needed. So the fault of not having gained enlightenment lies within a mindless mind, lacking mindful awareness. That is where all the faults come from. It is just like a house that is built with ice blocks. If there's cold weather, everything is frozen. A wise person would think, oh, this is ice, and the reason why it is ice is because it has not met with the warmth. And the warmth here is loving kindness and compassion. The cold weather that makes the ice block freeze is self-grasping. And you know how it is when you go outside and it is cold. It is very difficult. It feels bad. One feels some kind of restraint. That is just like self-grasping. Then when you go inside and it is warm, that is likened to the warmth of loving kindness and compassion. So bodhicitta is likened to the warmth, and it is only bodhicitta that can melt the ice block of self-grasping.
야 타려고요. 제 계속 장매가 주는 좀 성문에 시야매 봐지. 성문 계속 매봐. 대시서 오 말합다 그래. 때는 대화도 동에 초안 용어도 좀 말합다 그래. 동에 같이 용어 성공 우불 하시라. 동에지 만해 바래. something. 때는 다다야. 뉴모바 대화도 동에 담지. 내도 강찬해요. 대화는 마시 봐. 동에는 마당나. 말하리 빼라고 기독교가 치발이 요말 양이지 공장이나 찌라 시가 요말 동네는 당화 요말 네가 남도리 기적까지 미도리 기독교가 제면 당화롱도 쳐봐야지 당화가 초래해서 내도 말하면 출판자서 로어도 동네 탐지 세부대로 또 마음다 버리지 나는 산지 도망이로 독터 빼들었어. 거기서 뭐라지 sem지 탑지 말이 봐. 추진여서 창자쇼. 세부대로 때문에 또 추진 세부대로 그래. 다다 세부대로 때문에 좀 뭐가 봐도 담보리 창자를 해. 말아서를 장터나. 그러면 봐도 이 반이 창자를 해. 때문에 봐도 좀 반에. 가능한데. 창자를 해.
The 6 karmic actions are a delusion, like a dream. Until one has attained enlightenment, the sentient beings wander in the 6 realms of samsara because they continue to give rise to afflictive emotions, engage in actions, and continue to wander in samsara. But no matter how much they wander in samsara, their true nature, their Buddha nature, the nature of their mind, always remains the same. It never changes for even an instant. So although samsara may be infinite, the nature of one's own mind is beyond the arising and cessation, or beyond birth and beyond death. Everything experienced within samsara, all happiness and all suffering, in actuality are just like a dream. So no matter how much one suffers in samsara, one's own Buddha nature, the nature of mind, always remains unchanged. It always abides in the same way within one's mind. So whatever, then understanding that whatever arises within one's mind, afflictive emotions, happiness or suffering, one will then not have an attachment to the happiness and no aversion against the suffering. but one will understand it to be just like a dream, illusory. So Milarepa has said for there to be no difference between happiness and suffering, that is the most supreme amongst all the instructions. When one understands that there will be no aversion against suffering, and there will be no attachment to happiness. So although one experiences various happiness and sufferings within samsara, when one has realized the nature of mind, one will see all these experiences to be dreamlike. Then he continues, I am the primordial Buddha, here to train the 6 kinds of beings through all my manifestations. Through Kuntuzangpo's prayer, may all you beings without exception attain enlightenment in the state of Dharmadhatu. So when one has realized the nature of mind and one abides within that state, then that is what is referred to the state of Dharmadhatu, the ultimate sphere. When one has realized that, one may attain enlightenment in the first pardo after death. And when one has trained in the dream yoga and clear life practices, then one may attain enlightenment in the first pardo, or else one will attain enlightenment in the second or third pardo.
lama gyushini, choksum, kuksum, taksum, lama gyushini tamche. Nangna, ranga deshik nimbo, sem deshik nimbo. Kuntuzangpo munete, Kuntuzangpo. Dila, lama tiba kamne, tambo lama tenye, tambo sem gyushini, jin gyushini tamla tenye. Bada lama pecha tenye, taja selari tela suma dhamma tamche. 이들 대랑이 냠슬랑 냠슬뇽 타말라마랑 셈지 나글라마문이 되지 다다 잡을도 바감이 세상지 낭사지들 바콘도 뭐 dersi 소소를 요래 라신 사지 좀 오마시들 라고 생각대로 쳤다시나 사지 꾸지 잡아 될지 요래 다다다 나속다니 뭔가 잡답지 이모 실리저 통과도 어래 때는 뭐 이렇게 저도 다 대인을 사지에 말을 생긴 거를 참세 서부대로 보게 때 내가고 말봐 대선들이 로doktor 빼들어서 세트 봐 라마 교수님 나랑 잡았다 로dok스피다 로를 독특한 거거든요 나와 저거 봐 저거 가면 내가 호와를 눈에지 뉴모 받았지 말래 이는 막 나나 농문에들 갖고도 보래. 바꿔도 보래. 제라랑 손을 세고대로 준비시라 라고라고 해서 또나 나도 사지도 쪼거지는데. 라마 줄 쪽으로 또 빠서지로. 나 생랑 사지 생고나요. 대송고로 와전데. 때는 사지 가래. 사지 준비시라. 오, 진짜 사지 무슨 와도 내 담아 지도 내가 라마 톡고 그래. 내가 왕차면은 내가 집이라고 저 담아마tin지 담아야 보면 뭐 시기요라 창야 보면 뭐 시기요라 시제도 되는데 과를 왕면들이 뉴모 이왕나 하왕지 가라지서도 되네 나왕지 점지서도 오죠랬더니 하나 와차 걸고 들었더니 콜라는 오르라 라고 temper 시락 와차 톡고라 르빠를 하면 더 없어 때는 트펜더, 세 트펜더, 낭 트펜더, 선낭이 차총제대로 걸어라. 걔는 나를 바꿔도 되고, 무슨 거야?
So it says, I am the primordial Buddha, here to train the 6 kinds of beings through all my manifestations. Like we also already said yesterday, the various manifestations of the Buddha. Externally, the Lama, the Guru, manifests, and this Guru is the embodiment of the 3 Supreme Ones, the 3 jewels, and the 3 roots, and the Buddhas of the 3 times. And inside the internal manifestation, that is our own Buddha nature. It is one's own intrinsic awareness. and that intrinsic awareness is Samantabhadra. So in the beginning, one relies on the outer condition, and that is the external spiritual friend, and one's teacher. Then in the middle, one relies on the scriptures, such as the 37 Bodhisattva practices, which contain all the instructions. And then one engages in their practice and gains experiences. Then in the end, one relies on one's own inner mind to be the guru. So in the end, one recognizes the Buddha within. When we take refuge, we always hear that we take refuge first in the outer Buddha and then in the inner Buddha. This inner Buddha is one's own Buddha nature. One must resolve that one's own mind is the actual Buddha. If one knows how to properly look at the nature of mind, one will find the Buddha inherent within one's own mind. Then one will have the ability to transform into wisdom any thoughts and afflictive emotions arising within that mind. Then when one recognizes that, one is the Buddha, not recognizing that one is a sentient being wandering in samsara. So the difference lies in recognizing, and when one looks properly, it is not so difficult to see. So the external manifestation are the various teachers, the spiritual friends, and internally we can say, as all sentient beings are endowed with Buddha nature, they are manifestations of the Buddha. And so if they are manifestations of the Buddha, then also I am a manifestation, and only temporarily I give rise to afflictive emotions and mental graspings. But in actuality, in true nature, my true nature is Samantabhadra. It is intrinsic awareness. If I just recognize my own true face through maintaining mindful awareness. So the inner Buddha is most principal as opposed to the external Buddha. The inner Buddha is one's own mind, one's own mindful awareness that needs to be maintained continuously. So that mindful awareness is one's inner Buddha, and that is also the meaning of empowerment or gaining mental power, independence. When we lack independence, for example, we smoke cigarettes, although we know it is very harmful. Knowing it is harmful, still we smoke cigarettes because we are under the sway of this attachment. So we follow along this way of different substances or different food, or we are attached to certain smells with our noses. So we pursue this, and we are other-powered. We lack any self-power or independence. We need to achieve a mental independence, and we achieve that through sustaining our mindful awareness. And in this way, we attain independence of intrinsic awareness. So this is the inner manifestation of the Buddha. That inner manifestation, which is Samantabhadra, or our own intrinsic awareness, that needs to be recognized.
Sche namjor top jinjis, top the kangre, top the sachok seko top, top tangje na ne sachok seko top na je, ne kamsom sepasom na yo mari, kang na kamsom sepasom ko doge ko ta, daji the torgun, zabalin the teni, dachi chocha ke, thalari jertham na jertham jere, daji dortham je mari. 싸와니 사촉셈이라 지처럼 똑 치히들 돈이 된 흥지 정도도 봤대 똑 치보래 이 돈이 된 흥지 가리나 술라요래 나 소리 요 말했어 말했지 야 무슨 나봐 사제베 때발에 좀 만남 하다냐 무슨 기 답지 파마마 되버 직장에 봐 니로마 되버 직장에 봐 야다야도 쌈나 다 같이 배 지와치고 요래 주로 무슨 많이 받아들 지와치고 요래 문제는 돈이 면에 양패게요 말이에요. 돈이 문제 되냐 속죄죠 거래. 그는 답적에 빼. 나요는 이점이나 배도요 말이에요. 이점은 다음에나 배도. 다다 이점이나 다음에 내가 제토바테 바사지 사초선 나만이 빼래. 돈이 그래. simply 이제는 맞아봐. 돈 담배들 말고 코방 먹고 맞아봐. 먹어도 지만 맞아봐. 이 동시에 내가 언제 올라왔지만 나중에 유모반디 좀 하듯이 내가 강에 나한테 됐다 hingi겠어. 돌고요. 있잖아. 많은 바다냐고 sepjetam 피고 전 로서리는 또 키교에 맨들 또 요래 말도 나 바다냐고 sepjetam 그냥 핀셈이요. 피고 전 로데도 겨 밤에 뺀 게지. 지나니 나가 생각 내로 키면 그랬더니 뭐라도 땄다. sepje 장에 봐서 좀 장에 봐. 무슨 동산에 라는 게 내다 가와도 마땅히 사제 살고 그거래. 되는 선제 남들 또 이제 또대 돈이 더 능지 이거 거래 나와서 대화니구나 뭐나 또 진짜다 벤트 샘진다 지고 뛰어서는 오상기 알았어 가시는 소소 샘진다 토리섬 샘진다 레다 뭐 준비 줄라지 레 준비 줄라지 봐 탐지를 사촉섬 줄라지 사촉섬 줄라지 봐 탐지 상하가 따와도 좀 막가들 마도들들 사지에 장미가 상지로 요리 뭐래 때문에 담아보면 한거 말이 됐다 그랬더니 사지에 살고 듣고 요리 됐다 쌍노다 그랬더니 먼저로 돈이 이제 손도 주고 못 남다나 근데 생체 담에 됐다고 팽게 요리했어 기와서는 엄청 기와서 용동질이오다. 스스로한테 까똥나 봐.
Everybody says I say a little bit, otherwise I'm supposed to be scolded. She's translating. But anyways, so it continues. Hereafter, whenever a very powerful yogin, with his or her awareness radiant and free from delusion, recites this very powerful prayer, then all who hear it will achieve enlightenment within 3 lifetimes. So a very powerful yogin, what is that power? That power is bodhicitta. And amongst all the powers, this is the most powerful one. There is no power anywhere in the 3 realms or 3 existences of samsara that is as powerful as bodhicitta. Bodhicitta has the power to dispel all the roots of suffering, which is self-grasping. Even if you were to throw a nuclear bomb, it may lead the entire world to be in ashes, but it will not destroy self-grasping. The only power to destroy self-grasping is bodhicitta. So it is extremely powerful. And that bodhicitta is a union of compassion and emptiness. So who possesses this union of compassion and emptiness? And one shouldn't think, I don't possess that. Because once we have entered the gates of Buddha's teachings, we make an aspiration to guide our sentient beings to enlightenment, and we recognize again and again that all sentient beings, without exception, have been our parents or our friends in one or the other lifetime. So we feel love for those sentient beings and we wish them to attain enlightenment. Then there are other religions who possess the aspect of compassion but not the aspect of emptiness. That also is of not much benefit to sentient beings. It is important for there to be a union of compassion and emptiness. Just like a bow and arrow, on its own, any of these will be of no benefit. The bow and the arrow needs to unite in order to perform a function. So in the same way, emptiness and compassion need to unite in order to perform a function. So we have determined compassion, and the emptiness is the realization that all the sentient beings who experience suffering within samsara lack an inherent existence. All of samsara lacks any true existence or any true characteristics. Only temporarily the nature of mind of sentient beings is obscured by stains. And these stains are self-grasping and the afflictive emotions. And the only agent that dispels these stains is a mind of compassion and emptiness. Basically, it is a wish to benefit all sentient beings and guide them to enlightenment. So you can say confidently, I do have this power, I do possess an altruistic mind that seeks the benefit of others. Then through cultivation, this compassion will become unconditioned compassion. And then from within that state, one performs such an aspirational prayer then sentient beings will be benefited, embodied sentient beings or disembodied sentient beings, according to the fortune and karmas, will be gradually led to the state of enlightenment through this union of emptiness and compassion and the dedication, the aspiration and prayer. So it says, whoever is of this powerful yogin like that recites this prayer, all who hear it will achieve enlightenment within 3 lifetimes. So it is that first those in the lower realms will be led to the higher realms. Those in the higher realms will be introduced to the workings of karma, and those who have given rise to understanding of karma will cultivate bodhicitta. Those who have cultivated bodhicitta will realize the view of Vajrayana. And so in this way, gradually, sentient beings will be led to enlightenment. There is always infinite beings who attain enlightenment, and we cannot see that with our ordinary human eyes, but through a prayer like that and this intention, sentient beings actually can be led to enlightenment at any moment.
남자때에 뭐남자 동아름저 존에장 탈산지 도발소서 로리스 주 이마도 주 롱피디죠 이마도 주 참아 저저가 레지자가 말든지 오모템들 잠투다 그zam하 중조 그리고 저저 남바죠 로야리단지 소속 갖추는 대로는 참선을 비용상지 잡아요래 되게 잘했더니 잠보치고 만남데 기특도 봐도 사실 까면은 가이다 때도 그거래 까빠 망고로 사지 저 방적 제어를 되더니 기특도 좀 사지 용 되게 뭐라도 다치 뭐래 사지 기특도 봐도 기특 가리켜도 까빠 망고로 줌말아 까빠 망고로 줌 방적 되거든요 가리 남자들 럽도 그러나 사적인 문제에 된지지 공무원들 봐도 송들이 많은 상지 별로 짜면도 마시면서 사적스만 더 많이 냠들이에요. 되니 sabta 앞에서 되는 데는 그걸 해야 돼. 동상봉남 뒤지 산적스만 더 말하면 이게 차요 그랬더니 짬동 상dom이 냠도 필요해.
So then the last lines here say, during a solar or lunar eclipse, during an earthquake or when the earth rumbles, at the solstices or the new year, you should visualize Kuntuzangpo. And if you pray loudly so all can hear, the beings of the 3 realms will be gradually liberated from suffering through the prayer of the yogin and will finally achieve enlightenment. So these words are very clear in the end and do not require explanation. So this prayer book that we have here contains 3 precious prayers. One of them is the Kuntuzangpo, and then there is the aspiration prayer of excellent conduct, and then there is a dedication prayer of Shantideva. And sometimes, whenever possible, you should read any of these prayers. The benefits are inconceivable. And so also especially the prayer for excellent conduct is of great benefit, because this prayer is established, has been created by the truth speech of the Buddhas. And so it is the result of abandoning from telling lies for many aeons that this aspiration prayer has been created by the Buddhas. Let's say that this aspiration prayer is the result of the true speech of the Buddhas for many aeons. And so therefore whoever recites this aspiration prayer will accomplish whatever one is wishing for. And so now we end the teachings here, and when we come back, we will receive the refuge vow and the bodhisattva vow together. We can make a short break, and we can go to the bathroom. And when we come back, as following of the Kuntuzangpo, we will receive the refuge prayer and bodhisattva, refuge vow and bodhisattva vow together. Okay. Brief dedication prayer.